Hello, everyone. We're excited today to talk about agentic analytics with Power BI and Microsoft Fabric. My name is 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀, and I'm a Principal Group Product Manager at Microsoft.
And I'm Sujata Narayana. I'm also Principal Group Product Manager at Microsoft. And we're really excited to get into some new innovation and hopefully some things that you guys will really enjoy seeing here.
Great. So we will start off this session with a quick introduction to the concept of agentic analytics. Then we will go over more in detail end-to-end agentic analytics with Power BI and Microsoft Fabric. Then I'll hand it off to Sujata, who will cover analytics with Fabric apps. So to go ahead and get started, what really is agentic development for Power BI and Fabric creators? What this really means is it's a way to use agentic experiences with AI agents, skills, and MCP servers to help do all of those different creator activities that you know and love today, but with the power of AI using LLMs. And so what we really are looking to support with agentic development with Power BI is both Greenfield and Brownfield scenarios. So these are just simple examples, but what we really mean by Greenfield is those creating from scratch experiences, such as creating a net new semantic model that you bring in data, transform, do ETL on top of it, shape the model, and then build a report afterwards. Similarly, an example of a Brownfield scenario is when you're enhancing something that already exists. So you might already have your Power BI semantic model or your Power BI report, and there's some kind of new requirement that comes in from your leadership chain or a customer, and you want to adjust what you already have to be in a shape that meets new incoming changes and requirements. So we can also help those scenarios with agentic development as well. So we're really looking to support both of these kind of scenarios using AI to help experts do even more, even faster than they can today. And so let's take a look at what we mean by end-to-end agentic analytics. So a few months ago, there was a GitHub repository that was shared called Skills for Fabric. And what this is it's essentially a repository that supports all sorts of different agent skills for all of your different Microsoft Fabric scenarios for you to be able to use agents to do all sorts of different Fabric development tasks. So this spans across things like lakehouses, notebooks, reports, semantic models, really the whole Fabric ecosystem for you to be more productive and move faster using AI. And there's tons of flexibility with using this repository. You could use it in all sorts of different developer environments, such as things like GitHub Copilot CLI or VS Code. And this really helps you move even faster and allows you to focus more on defining the context and really the why behind what you're trying to create, rather than spending hours and hours clicking through every single step to implement the solution. Really helps the LLM do some of that heavy lifting work and allows you to focus on those high-level goals and outcomes. And so we have this link here to try it out. I'd highly recommend trying out the Fabric Skills repository for all of your Fabric needs. But what we really want to focus on here is how you can use this for Power BI creation scenarios, starting with our modeling experiences, which we support with the Power BI Modeling MCP server. Now, in the Fabric Skills repository, there is a skill called Power BI Model Authoring. And what this really does is help you craft your semantic models in a way using natural language to really speed up things that used to take a long time through like clicks or scripting. Now you could do it easier than ever using the Modeling MCP server. So the skill in the Fabric Skills repository calls the Modeling MCP server and has knowledge in the markdown files to help you enhance your models to follow best practices. And one additional enhancement on top of that is we now make it easier than ever to get started using the Modeling MCP server from the web modeling view. All you have to do is click on the Copilot button in Web Model View, and this will pop up a Copilot side chat where you can use this to give your natural language prompts to make changes to your semantic model, to make changes such as to your DAX measures, relationships, your column properties, all of those different rich semantics, being able to modify them using natural language. You can even get suggestions on how to make your model better for your reports and optimize better for AI. So you can both use all of these really rich modeling experiences in your developer environments and even coming soon in web modeling. Now, the next skill that we support in the Fabric Skills repository is the much anticipated report authoring skill. We're really excited to ship this live for the first time at Build, and what this really does is help you both create net new reports as well as edit your existing Power BI reports. What this does is you use the PBIP file and desktop to be able to create and edit your reports, and it really helps do a lot of the heavy lifting of all those operations that traditionally take a long time with doing clicky, draggy, droppy operations. Now you can use natural language for all of them. Some key things that you can do is update report themes based on requirements, maybe even a screenshot, as well as modify different visuals and report elements to meet all of the requirements that you have for your reports. All right, well, enough talking about these skills. Let's see what it looks like actually in action with some demos. So in the first demo that I want to show, this is going to be a Greenfield scenario. So in this case, I'm creating a net new semantic model and report completely from scratch with the assistance of AI using the Fabric Skills repository. So here in my setup, I have on the left-hand side an empty PBIP file open in Power BI Desktop. And on the right-hand side, I have GitHub Copilot CLI connected to this instance of Power BI Desktop. Now, to create a net new semantic model within this file, all I have to do is give a really simple prompt, such as create a new semantic model using data at MySQL database, and it'll just go ahead and create this new semantic model for me. I'm able to see all the changes validated on Power BI Desktop on the left-hand side, while the LLM is also giving updates of all the changes it's making on the right-hand side, including a helpful summary. Now, I'm able to see I have a beautiful star schema, but I want to take this one step further. My organization defines our semantic modeling best practices in a shared markdown file. So I just give this file as context to the LLM and ask it to update my semantic model to follow all of those well-known best practices, which it goes ahead and does for me, giving helpful summaries, and I even see a description added to my column matching the best practices. Now, as a next step, I want to create a report off of the semantic model. What I do is I define each of the report pages, the requirements I have for that page of what I want it to look like within these two different markdown files. And then I go ahead and give it as context to the LLM and say, go and make this report for me. And then what I'm able to see afterwards is it creates this beautiful new report, all based off of the requirements within my markdown files. Now, I want to take this one step further and style this report to match theming and branding that I desire for my organization. So I give it a reference image of a sample report page that I want the rest of my report to look like, as well as my company's logo for it to follow as theming and styling best practices. All it took was a really simple prompt and these two pieces of information as context, and it was able to modify that entire report for me to match all of the styling and theming guidance that I really wanted for this report. All of these tasks, as many of you Power BI creators know, often take many hours to do, fine-tuning and clicking and moving things around. Now it's easier than ever, thanks to the help of AI and the Fabric Skills repository, making it so I could focus on defining the what of what I want for my data solution, rather than going through all the manual processes of making those things happen. So that was a Greenfield scenario, creating completely from scratch using AI, a net new semantic model and report. But as we talked about earlier, it's not just Greenfield scenario support. We also support Brownfield scenarios of being able to edit existing things that you already have. We know many of you already have existing semantic models and reports that you either want to fine-tune for new requirements or just want to modify based on any new preferences you have. Let's take a look at what a Brownfield scenario looks like for a report. So in this case, I want to level up one of my existing reports in one prompt using the same Fabric Skills repository. Here I have my report page, which maybe could be a bit more visually appealing. It's not following some of the reporting best practices. I want to make it better and more executive ready. So all I do is I ask Copilot to help improve my AdventureWorks report. I want to have a more modern feel, have a clean editorial landing page with intuitive page navigation, and really look more polished and executive ready. In plan mode in GitHub Copilot CLI, I'm given different options of what this page can look like. I reviewed these and I go ahead and go with one of the options that was suggested to me. And then the LLM goes ahead and makes the changes to my report based on that plan. And it looks beautiful with consistent styling and theme. I had that really nice landing page at the beginning. This is in a much better state where I'm ready to share it with my executives and my larger team And it was so easy to get started all in one prompt, thanks to the assistance of the Fabric Skills repository with the Power BI report authoring skill within there. So that was really it for the end-to-end agentic analytics part of the presentation. Now I'm going to hand it off to Sujata to cover the next section.
All right. Thank you, Emily, so much for showing us all the innovation that's happening around agentic development in Power BI reports and Power BI semantic models. Now, let's switch gears here a little bit, because I want to talk about something that is brand new, in fact, released just at this conference, which let's look at Fabric apps. And specifically, I want to talk about analytics use cases within Fabric apps. So AI is really democratizing a lot that's happening with web app development. We're seeing all kinds of scenarios where MVPs like 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, Reed Havens are building end-to-end web apps for enterprise analytics. And because AI is making it so much easier to do this, we're even seeing citizen developers being able to achieve so much more here. Now, where custom web apps add value beyond reports is that developers that need more flexibility or have higher custom requirements can really take advantage of going the custom web app route. Because with a custom web app, you're getting full custom UX. So if you want things like responsive layouts, unlimited UI controls, or even full-blown multi-step workflows, you can get that with a custom web app. And also, if you have scenarios where you want fully customizable actions, these web apps can be really helpful for that as well, because you're getting a much more seamless integration for building things like decision loops, supporting custom code and custom integrations, because at the end of the day, custom web apps are all just code. And now here's the caveat. Even though AI is democratizing a lot of web app development today, the reality is that a lot of these vibe-coded apps never reach production. So majority of these apps, like let's say if you built on Lovable, Streamlit, or other surface areas, may not reach production because they may miss things like enterprise-grade security, governance, reliability, and more operational controls. And so even though AI helps you get 80% of the way, that additional 20% of making it ready for production, if it's not there, it's just not enough to have to your customers or your end users. And so this is something that we want to tackle with Microsoft Fabric. And that's now introducing Fabric apps. So you may have seen in some of the other sessions, we made a huge announcement around Fabric apps, which basically what that is a Fabric backend for building enterprise-grade apps. Now, let's talk about this in a little bit more detail. So what this is Rayfin is the project name, which allows for a CLI-based experience. So not only is this developer-friendly, but it's very AI-friendly too. So here you see an example from our NPM package, which you can connect to your CLI experiences in order to have your coding agent of choice be able to build end-to-end apps that are all backed in Fabric. Now, what does this relate to Power BI or semantic models? Well, to start with is Fabric apps can be built on semantic models. So that same foundation that you're getting to build your reports from your analysts, your developers can now build custom web apps on that as well. And so what this unlocks is really good for enterprise analytics. So not only are you able to build entirely blown custom web apps, but these web apps are live, using live data, they are using optimized queries, and of course, we are using visuals that are very consistent and meet enterprise-grade requirements while being AI first. And by being secure connection to your Fabric data, and also the enterprise scale and governance that you expect, you can more safely deploy this to your enterprise customers and end users. So let's talk a bit about how to get started with this. So Fabric apps includes a data app template. So to start with is you can either choose the template within the CLI experience. So when you do your npm create command, you'll need to add a statement that says template data app. Or if you're in Fabric, you can also initiate the creation of it through Fabric as well. So you can pick the template called data app. And let's talk a little bit of what's happening behind the scenes. So the data app template is really comprised of three key things. First is a data package that allows you to securely connect to your Fabric data. And next is a visual package, which is using a Vega Lite component and React components so that you're getting visualizations that are really optimized for AI, make it really great for building a ton of different flexible visuals while also staying true to certain enterprise-grade defaults. And then, of course, we have a set of agent skills that are helping teach the LLM how to properly query the data, how to handle Fabric formats, write Vega Lite visual specs, and of course apply design best practices so that these applications look really polished and professional. And all of these templates are built directly on Rayfin, so directly on Fabric apps, so that you can leverage it with your Rayfin experiences. Now, let's take a look at a demo of what this looks like. So let's see a scenario where I'm going to use a few prompts and an MD file to generate a production-ready app. So starting with my semantic model, you can see here it's using a lot of different tables, a lot of different data here. I want to take this data that is in the form of a semantic model. I want to build an app from it. So to start with is I'll have a spec that actually AI helped me create around my requirements. And even though AI helped me create it, I can always go manually tweak this. So here's an example where I want to add a hover card. So let's say I want an image and an email. I can go add those hover card tooltips there. And the next part, I'm going to go scaffold that project. So I use that npm create command. I make sure I specify the template of data app. So as you see here, the CLI experience is creating, scaffolding the project for me. And now I have the files all available on my local. And so once I have this available, I'm going to navigate to that file. So if I go here, I navigate to my project file, and then I'm going to go and publish this to my Fabric workspace. So at this point, I've just provisioned the app. I haven't yet created the exact app ID I have. And this is where the fun part happens. So at this point, I'm going to give my coding agent of choice a link to my spec file and a link to my semantic model. So once it has these two critical details, I ask it to go build the app and deploy it when it's ready. So this takes roughly about 20 minutes or so of your coding agent processing this request. And when it's done, you get a full-blown production-ready application that matches the requirements that you put out in your spec. And so here, for example, I have a 3-page application here that includes things like filtering, tooltips, like I mentioned, that hover card that appears, even having more customization, like adding a full-blown dark mode. And so it's really quite powerful of the type of data application that you can create here. Now, let's say you want to customize this even further. And that's the beauty with working with AI is you really just need to update that MD spec. So let's see an example of this. So let's say I want to add a little bit more features to this application. Let's say I want a landing page, I want persona-specific selection, and I even want a calendar tab. So I can go add all of these requirements to the spec and update it. And then I just hand Copilot that updated spec. So I just say, hey, update the app using the latest spec. And as it's going to go process through that request again takes about 20 minutes or so, and you have your updated application right here. So you see the persona-specific selection. So you have different set of pages for each persona. So the executive page is a little bit more focused. And then, of course, you have that calendar view like I mentioned. So this is really bringing in a lot more of actionable elements to this application because I can now track the calendars for the different collaborations I have coming up. And I can even go and add those calendar events to my Outlook calendar itself. So you're really kind of combining the elements of both the analytics with also the elements of the action-oriented apps. So it's really about bringing your data alive and really customizing your app however you want, and doing so in a prompt-based way. So leveraging AI with what it's best for, especially the coding agents, to really generate that code from you completely from scratch. And so this is really showing the value of what the data app template can offer as you are trying out the new Rayfin and Fabric apps experience. So now let's recap what you get with data apps in Fabric. So to start off with is that connection to semantic models is so critical. right out of the box, you're going to get a secure authentication to your semantic models, which I'm sure many of you have tons of semantic models where you're eager to try this new experience with. Next, you're going to get the AI-driven analytics capabilities. So out of the box, being able to have AI understand how to write DAX queries, making sure you're getting optimized queries so that you're visualizing the right data, the right insights, and of course, formulating that really well in visuals. And then speaking of our visuals, like I mentioned, these visuals use the Vega Lite visualization library, which make it really easy to build AI-first visuals and using enterprise-grade defaults. And so we've added additional customizations on top of that to make sure there's consistency in tooltips, make sure there's accessibility, and all of the enterprise-grade requirements that you would expect. And more coming soon is that we want to add more sources. So we know that there's a lot of other sources in Fabric where you may not want to connect directly to a semantic model, but you may want to connect directly to other sources, like let's say a SQL DB directly, or maybe a lakehouse or a warehouse directly. So we do plan to add more sources coming soon. We also want to have more out-of-the-box signal detection. Of course, because web apps are just code, you can always, prompt that yourself, but we want to make it way easier for you to get that signal detection, right out of the box. And that same goes for custom actions as well. So integration with things like user data functions, integration with things like operational agents. We want to enable a little bit more streamlined integration with any sort of custom actions or custom agents that you want to bring into the picture. And last but not least, we want to make sure that you also support embedded scenarios. So in the first release, right now, the data app is limited to just being hosted within Fabric, and you see it within the Fabric portal. But we want to also make sure that, in the future releases, you can be able to embed this in your own application or embed it in other areas. So with that, we hope this gave you a good insight into what we're doing in terms of innovation for our analytics experiences, both across Power BI and Microsoft Fabric. And for those that are interested in learning more about any of the things you've seen here, check out our blog at aka.ms/AzureDataBuild26 and also explore our documentation and our community site to learn more and engage with the community. Thank you so much. We hope you enjoy this presentation and looking forward to your feedback on all this new innovation.